Hey everyone, hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, I thank each and every one of you. Also, do please support the message by liking, sharing, subscribing, and hyping to this video. As well as do please know the message is now out on book with a little bit more insight, and it's on Amazon for those that want to stop by and check it out. Do please, thank you. Well, everyone, on this one, I am going to make it short. I've been trying to record so you guys could hear me better, so I take the machine off so it would not bother you guys. So, anyways, on this one, I want to touch on a little bit more on what we were doing in Mazatlán, right? Since I put that reaction out, and at the same time answer a lot of people have been asking me if I could touch more about the wiggles we had together with the norteño gente down here, right? And how, like I said before, even me being from Northern California, that's just all went out the window, right? And that's on a personal note. But I know every camarada and norteño I met down here, they all felt the same. It's a different struggle out here. And this was shortly after we had gotten out of Guanajuato. As I stated, Guanajuato had a lot of norteños, and I got real close with Johnny, right? And I mentioned it before. It was a shame, what we went through there. But anyways, I stated on the reactions, the current brothers fighting, with the Cabreras and stuff. We helped them come into play, or I don't know if that's a correct word, but at the time, the Mazos were deep in there, mazatlecos, and we're trying to get them out and establish someone, right? And they basically started for the Guzmanes as many representatives from different families, right? And as you know, we're pointers, we're representing a family, right? Reaching out for them prizes and tapping into the pipelines, right? At the end of the day, it was to pick up trust. We were just pointers. But anyways, shortly after this, and the brothers picked up, it was just right for the Guzmanes to stay with Mazatlan, cause at the end of the day, the Mazos were part of them, right? So, anyways, we would go in and out, not often, but when we did, we heard about there was an NF there. I know he's out doing his thing, and it is why I'm going to refrain from speaking his name. But those that don't know, he had a whole little thing going with timeshare cancellation, and it was hitting. They were doing their thing, and at the same time, they were tapping in. You know, reaching out for prices, and they had their own avenues, pipelines, and even if I knew him, is you know, it's not my business to speak on them, right? So, anyways, throughout this, there was about 15 norteños there, and it's all what you would consider, at least in my time, and ours, right? Or bros. I know things change, so but they were norteños that done their time, put in their work, had their clecha. They were good people, We had, you could say, a few carne asadas and stuff, and everything was cool, respectful, peaceful. And I remember we're back in Culiacan, and they started having problems. You see, there was a vecindad. I forgot the name of it, but it's literally from the Malecon. It was about 5 blocks in, right? The ones that know Mazatlán, where McDonald's is at, 5 blocks up. There's a little vecindad that was still not built up all the way that the norteño gente had it sold up, you know. But in this time, on the ropes were the H Nueves people, or the ones he left behind. And they seen it like it was easy money to start extorting and attacking the norteño gente. Eventually the NF member would hit Culiacan, and the persons he was buying from, because he wasn't freelancing in Mexico, he was just dando y dando, and again, they would take care of their own thing, right? He would ask for some type of help, and when he mentioned it was mazatlecos, it picked up the interest, right? And again, we were pointers, and then more so because you could be whatever in Mexico, norteño, sureño, bulldog. You know, we're not looked at like that. To them, we're one. We're pochos, we're plásticos. You know, and it just has to do with the couple people that got treated bad in the states, either by NF member, norteños, or pilis, or sureños. They come down here and started a whole narrative that picked up. Now we're looked at like that here, and just to be sincere, there's just no comparison, right, to what we do to what's done here. And anyways, we would get sent in to verify that it was the mazatlecos and to support, the norteño gente down there and deal with the situation. So there was about 9, 10 of us that went down there, and 15 norteños, and again, they were all ready to boogie. They were all suited and booted and vámonos. So anyways, we would go into the vecindad and we would wait, because that's where the mazatlecos, they were finding a time to go in and start doing their BS, right? And the reason it wasn't brought up to the brothers that were already established or other people was because we were to verify who they were first, and you could say we had a little bit more insight when it came to who people were, right? That claimed Culiacan or were functioning out of Culiacan. So I remember one night they got there, and it just kicked off, you know. In this thing, I met a good vato, Mikey from Sanjo, and Güero from Stockton, I believe he was. Yeah, Stockton. And they were good dudes, real good dudes with good clecha. They were younger though. I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it they were younger than myself, but they had schooling again. But they were fairly new to the territory in Mexico, the Wiggles out here. And anyways, we would go at it. Unfortunately, there was one of them things where it was a dummy war, you could say. We went at it, Nobody got hurt from our end, and we don't know if we hurt any one of them. It was what it was, right? At the end of the day, we just went at it. It was a thing that just popped up. It happened, and you guys know Marines there in Mazatlán. They have a station there, so they would eventually hit the vecindad we were at, and we already knew what time it was. Again, the norteño gente, it's not to say anything, but they were doing their timeshare cancellation, and we were doing more going out to the ranchos, going up the mountains, so we knew when Marines hit, basically what angle to take, right? So I remember me and the homie, rest in peace, Pinky was still around. We actually told Mikey and Güero, hey, cáiganle, let's boogie. And they were like, why don't we just buck up? And we said, no, you don't buck up with Marines. One, you're going to get your ears smacked back because you're going to heat up the plaza. If you go at it with them towards other people, that's going to ricochet real negative. And two, you just don't go against Marine, right? And especially let them catch you. So, anyways, we would end up hopping in these motorcycles and just boogieing. We went towards the outskirts of Mazatlan, going towards Culiacan, right? And we would hit a brecha, a brecha that will lead you could say, towards a mountain, right? But first you have to go through Cerro, which is nothing but there's nothing out there, right? You go through there, eventually you hit the Cerro, and then you hit the valles, and you just find a place because you don't want Marine to catch you. And again, even though we went at it wildly and not organized, to be sincere, because we had just gotten there and we weren't expecting them fools to hit so soon. But again, they were on the road for money, right? That's all they wanted, money, and they seen like, oh, you know, here's some pochos. You know, the way they tend to look at us. And I remember we were up in that little valle for 2 days, and the homie Mikey from Sajo, he was telling me like, hey, what can the Marines do? Let's just turn ourselves in. We're American citizens. They'll shoot us back to the States. And I told him, nah, homie, that's not how it works down here. If they catch us up here in the Valle, we will never see the inside of a prison cell. They are never going to arrest us. They're going to lay us out where they can find us after they beat us in till they get tired. Don't let them catch you. We're far away from Mazatlan. They get near to us enough. Just let loose. Just let loose and let the best thing happen, but don't let them catch you. Them tortures, them fools do, man. But anyways, it was a higher power, which in my case is Jesus, right? Help us through that. It's one of them times that I always say there's always God. God's always there, even though I was doing whatever, He was present. And even though we were out there for 2 days, man, drinking water, we drink water from some nasty, nasty, you could say arroyo that went by. and that's about all we had in them 2 days. But as we're going down, we're trying to find out where we're going to come out because it was dark. We hopped on the motorcycle. We went out. We seen nothing but forest or whatever you want to say, mountain. We dropped the bikes and vámonos by foot, right? But as we're going down, I guess it just wasn't meant for us to leave in peace, right? And the Marines, we shot back, but we didn't even see them, and they would end up hitting Weddle. They would end up hitting him good, you know, a couple in his back, and as he turned around on the side, and sorry to say it like this, and we couldn't give the Marines time to reach us. The homie was done. Them type of weapons they use, there's just no way. You get four good ones like that hit on you, you're gonna make it down that valle. So it was just one of them things where we had to leave him, and I'm pretty sure even before we took off, he was already gone. But you see, those are the things that we faced down here. Not as sureños, norteños. It was raza, period, right? And we would end up getting to the small little town, and Mikey's the one that called in, and we got picked up. As we came back, basically what we got told is whoever's left, norteños and homies, report back to Culiacan. So we did so, and out of the 15 norteños, only 10 reported back. You know, we had a homie hit, but we didn't lose none. But these are the things that I try to make sense of when I speak about norteños. Again, my utmost respects. I don't speak about your politics, their politics, because I don't. Even though I know the surface, I would never know the inworks, right, to the fullest. But that was the stop of the timeshare. So the NM member basically stayed in Culiacan for a while, and then there was a spot open for them in Cabos. And then we shook biceps and showed our love and respect, and they went their way, and we continued to do what we were doing out here, which our goal was different than theirs. Theirs was to establish something here, making feria, and at the same time be able to tap in. And they had their own little pipeline, believe me. I know there's not spoken, they don't speak about the people working in Mexico, norteños, but they have a lot of people. They're just more low key, smarter to be sincere. To build a pipeline that's there now, we lost a lot of head there. We went through a lot because we were pointed a bunch of missions, and I don't mean it in the sense like for myself. I got shot up, days of hunger, up in the hills, and just coming down and hitting, and not knowing every time we came down how many people were going to receive us. And, it was just a little different. But it was one of them times that I was truly happy that, or honored, should I say, to do something with norteños on a personal tip, cause not one of them bucked up or bent, should I say better. All of them bucked up. They lost a few, but I think it went with the lack of experience mainly on how were things when they kicked off. Again, they were more on the mellow tip, trying to do their thing, just more on the DL, right? But that's to answer the question why me being from Northern California, from having real hate that in reality was ignorance, right? And went from me having my utmost respects for them and sincerely care for Johnny, for Star, for a lot of good norteños I met down here. And it all started with the shoe. It's just not the same as the higher ups painted. And I mean for both sides. For the norteño gente, as for sureños, believe me, we get put on blindfolds with this narrative and lies. And it's just to keep that hate pushing. But when you see them like out here, when they're face to face, you will see the true colors on what they want, on what they're doing with us. But again, I completely understand putting their head down and keep pushing forward. I was never nobody, and I know that's the mutual feeling, right? But anyways, I would not run across them again, right? Because we rarely went up that way, and if we did, it was towards Sonora, Baja, Tijuas, things like that. But again, they were good gente, and I just thought I'd share this with you. So, mi gente, I hope I made sense. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.